saw
right.
a laugh. I saw a smiley face there. I'm getting used to this.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining. This is our NCPMI Leadership Community of Practice. And my name is Lori Glenn, kicking us off today. And the title of the session that we are having is called How to Get an F in Leadership. So got a few slides before we get into our feature presentation. So just want to start, hopefully you feel welcome. We definitely appreciate you all joining us today. Here's our agenda. We're going to talk a little bit about the leadership community of practice because we definitely have some folks that are just joining us for the first time today. Talk about our rules of engagement, have our speaker introduction, and then have our amazing speaker kick off and share some nuggets, some wisdom, and some interaction with all of you. And then we will close things with our survey and any closing remarks. So without further ado, I'm not going to read this slide to you. I'll just tell you the highlights. NCPMI has relaunched its leadership community of practice. And the purpose of this community of practice is to give opportunity for those in leadership, those desiring leadership, those at different levels of leadership to come together, learn, network, and share. That's literally the gist of it. Myself and Quincy Campbell, who is the vice chair, and Rodney Shepard, who's not on with us today. He's celebrating, I think, an anniversary with his wife. So we said, you can take today off. We are planning different sessions throughout the year and looking at different topics within the area of leadership, which we know is a broad topic. So that is the reason we are all here and why the community of practice exists. So I'm going to keep us moving. And so our rules of engagement. This is our brave, safe space. There are times when there are questions asked when you're able to give your personal experience or things you have gone through personally. We want to respect everyone's opinions and thoughts. We don't want to see it out on Instagram tomorrow if someone from this group shared something about their personal experience as a leader or just in general. We also want you to engage as much as you feel comfortable. We know some folks love jumping into the chat. Others want to raise their hand and speak. We want all of that. We want you to definitely engage. Want to ask everyone, it looks like you've already done it, to mute your device so that we are able to enjoy the speaker and hear everything that he has to say. And we would love for you to join us on camera if you feel so inclined. During the presentation, Sporty has said that, he can take questions as we go through. So feel free, like I said, to raise your hand or drop things in the chat. Quincy and I will be monitoring the chat during the presentation. And finally, the PDUs. When you registered, if you entered your PMI number, the PDU for this event will be logged for you. And anyone who watches this recording, because we are recording this, anyone who watches the recording would need to self-report their PDU for watching the content. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Quincy to introduce our speaker.
Okay. Thank you, Lori. Sporty King brings a unique blend of humor, original poetry, and real-world wisdom drawn from corporate sales leadership, entrepreneurial experience, and more than 30 years as a professional speaker. A Toastmasters World Champion of Public Speaking finalist and North Carolina District 37 runner-up, he reminds us that how we feel affects how we listen, how we lead, and how we succeed. Today, he will guide us through the 5 F's that strengthen communication, reduce stress, and elevate our impact. Please join me in welcoming Sporty King.
All right, I will stop sharing. Kick it over to you, Sporty.
Look at me. I think I'm sharing. Okay.
Yes, we can see your screen.
All right. And I can even see it, but I lost me. I lost us. Should I click this thing that says join now? I don't think so.
No.
Okay. Okay. Well, I put a note in the chat there, folks, asking for 3 volunteers. So even if you don't see your picture in this in this first slide, I need 3 volunteers to get us started. So go on, somebody raise your hands. Oh, I think I found it. Okay, I see Gerard is 1. Okay, I feel like an auctioneer. I got 1, I got 1, I got 1. I need 2. I need 2. Do I have 2? I have 2 volunteers. I need 3, but do I have 2? Gerard is in the plug in the queue waiting. Come on, y'all. 2 more. It'll be more fun with 2. We can do it with Gerard, but we can do it if we get at least 2. There you go. Thank you, Zendri. Zendra, you let me know if I'm going to say it right. And do we have 3?
Zandra.
Zandra, thank you. Oh, even with the N? Oh, because it's Z-E-N.
My mama said make a sound, that last E.
And ladies, that is the end of our seminar today. My mama said. And you know what? Be ready, Zandra, because there's going to come up a slide where it's going to have just that instruction of how important it is to listen to what your mama said. Okay, we're just going to go with these 2. So we'll do with 2 volunteers. That'll be just fine. Okay, now, here's what you're going to do. Gerard, you're 1. Zandra, you're 2. You're going to read the same slide that I'm going to click on. And you're going to read it one at a time, and you get 1 chance to read it. I'm going to say, Gerard, you're going to read it. And then as soon as you stop, I'm going to say, Zandra, you're going to read it, okay? That's it. So come off mute so you can be ready. As soon as I say your number, you're going to roll. Okay? Here we go, Gerard, and go.
Oh, if I told you you read the first line wrong, what
Zandra,
if I
2. Yes, we don't hear you. You're on mute. You're on mute. You're on mute. You're on mute. You're on mute.
What I if told you you read the first line wrong?
All right. We don't know if you said that the first time, but we know. But we know Gerard did say this. He said, what if I told you you read the first line wrong? See, that's what we actually want to say and want to see. All right. But the thing is, if you add that slide to this one, where he says, in the moonlight, your eyes are just like pearls. And she said, well, who's Pearl? And what are you doing in the moonlight with her? Well, when you couple those 2 cartoons together, we see that one of the biggest challenges in life, not just leadership, is that we see and hear what we want to see and hear. And that's one of the hugest challenges in life, not just leadership. So my message always highlights the power of words. And we have to control our vocabulary instead of allowing our vocabulary to control us. Because when you change your vocabulary, you know what, folks? You can change your life. And when your words are positive, WORDS becomes what others remember and digest, strengthens spirits. Ah, you look great. I'm so proud of you. I wish you the best. You make a difference. Positive output, positive input, positive results. Because words go to the spirit. Positive output, positive input, positive results. But when your words are negative, WORDS becomes what others remember, destroy spirits. Ah, you look terrible. I can't stand you. I hope you fail. You'll never amount to anything. Negative output, negative input, negative results. What do your words do? You see, are your words boosting people up or knocking them down? Well, to help you figure that out, what I'm going to do is, as the title says, I'm going to give you an F for the evening. And I thank you for joining us this evening by letting you know that you deserve that F in leadership. And there are actually 5. And because I think the letter F gets a bad rap, I've actually made my Fs positive. And they stand for focus, faith, fun, friends, and freedom. You see, a key part of leadership in a crisis is turning negatives into positive. And you do that by controlling your vocabulary rather than allowing your vocabulary to control you. And in the interest of time, we're only going to talk about 3 of the F's. So according to you, we're only going to talk about focus, faith, and free. So according to your birth month, so now, Laura, you can drop this in the chat, but according to your birth month, we're going to have you for the next 3 minutes, think about why you need to be focused, have faith, or feel free. Those of you born from between January and April, you're going to be thinking about why it's important to be focused. Those of you born between May and August, why do we have to have faith to be a leader? And those of you in what I call the Burr months, September, October, November, December, why do you need to feel free to be a leader? So let's get 3 minutes and you think about that and then get ready to just come off of mute and tell us about it, okay? So give me some 3-minute music. I should have told you we were going to do that, huh? And I got a timer, so I'll let you know when it's 3 anyway. You know what? I should have checked. I hope we got enough people for all of those birthdays. How many people we got? Do we, are any of those months not covered? Is everybody who's born in January to April? Raise your hand. But we'll see when we get to it. Okay, okay, good. Well, thank you. That would work. I didn't know if that would work. And let's see, what about May to August? Okay, great. And what about the Burr months? All right, so all of them are covered. Okay. Thank you. All right. You can let your hands down. Thank you. We got 2 minutes to go. 2-minute warning. The Miami Heat, their announcer says 2 minutes dose, because they're always playing to the Hispanic audience as well. So they always say dose, which is 2. They say 2 minutes dose. Tidbits that mean nothing, but you gotta have them. You got 1.5 minutes. 1 minute. By the way, folks, always be happy to pick up some tidbits on presenting. So Lori and I, we figured out that we would do the birthday months because we couldn't make rooms to send everybody into. So, you know, I'm happy to give you those kind of tips as well if you have questions on those as well. Okay, we got 30 seconds. And thank you all for being so quickly interactive with the hands. I guess y'all know people, yeah, don't make me put some hands on you. All right. All right, we got 15 seconds. So whoever's going to be January, April, be ready to raise your hand and tell us why it's important to be focused. Okay, boom, let's go. January to April. Why is it important to be focused? Why do you need to be focused to be a leader? Who's got a hand? There you go. Like that, Alina or Alina?
Alina.
See, I got it on the second one. Yeah.
I think probably it's important to have a very clear vision and focus to make sure as a leader that whatever the goals are very clear to everyone and can be achieved.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, was that our only January to April birthday? Well, okay. By the way, Alina, what month were you born in?
April.
April. Oh, so you're coming up. What day?
In 10 days on 25th.
Well, happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, let us not wait for the man-made calendar to celebrate you. So, yeah, my birthday is actually August 27th. So the 27th of every month, I celebrate being a month older.
Very
Okay,
nice.
so there you go. So happy countdown. Maureen, what you got?
Well, it helps to provide your strategic goals if you're focused.
Hmm. Hmm. Helps us. I'm taking notes, by the way. Love it. Strategic goals. Okay. Got any more, Jan? And when's your birthday, Maureen?
February
February. Okay, what day?
28th, last day.
See, you a
And I'm
double
not a leap year
Valentine.
baby. No.
Yeah, but no, I didn't even think about leap year. You're right, but I'm talking about Valentine. 2 times 14 is 28. You got twice the love. You go, girl.
I love it.
See, you love it. See? Boom, Valentine's Day. If you can only express love on Valentine's Day, you're really not a very good Valentine, are you? So, all of these things make a difference. All right, so focus. Well, so we got clarity, we got vision, we got goals, we got strategic goals, and we got focus. FOCUS. Finding ourselves creates unlimited success. Ladies and gentlemen, you have to focus on you. Individually, put yourself first. See, you can't help anyone until you help yourself. You can't get clear goals or visions or and strategic outcomes if two things: one, you don't help yourself, and two, somebody else doesn't want your help. And so when we see finding ourselves creates unlimited success, I want you to remember to focus on you and let others come into focus. Because sometimes it requires that we really figure out how important it is to CYA and take care of your PMS. And I know we are grown-ups here and we got initials going, acronyms going. So we all know that CYA is what? Choose your attitude. And of course, take care of yourself physically, mentally, and spiritually. Yeah. See, yeah, you have to choose your attitude. Think about what I had up there about words. If your words are positive or negative, your words make a difference. How are you going to have clarity? I love it how Maureen said you have to have strategic goals because your attitude, goals what's the main thing about goals is that we have to have short term, midterm, and long term. You have to have patience and a strategy of how you're going to make each one of those goals unfold so that they can make the vision that Alina is talking about. So choose your attitude, and you have to have a positive attitude that helps you move forward. That's why you have to take care of yourself. Put yourself first and take care of your PMS. Take care of yourself physically. Don't put your spouse, your parent, don't put your mama, don't put your pets. Nobody, you put you first. Once you take care of you, you'll take care of everybody else on your list that you thought you should have put first. But how can you help a loved one who's falling if you don't take care of yourself physically so that you can help pick them up? How can you help a loved one make a life-changing decision if you don't take care of yourself mentally so that you can guide them in the right direction? How can you help a loved one keep the faith and have that spiritual growth that they know that they need to hold on and stay in there? By the way, I say hold on because I don't use the word hanging anymore because hanging don't sound so good. So let's hold on. Let's hold on. And how can you give them that spiritual support? Because if you're going to make any kind of goals, if you're going to have any kind of vision, you have to have that spiritual support. So, ladies and gentlemen, put yourself first. Put yourself first so that you can take care of the loved ones in your life. For instance, in May 1994, when I started my speaking business, I said I wanted to be the Muhammad Ali of motivational speaking. I wanted to be the one that stated and know that I'm the greatest. And what I found out in August of that year is that I'm not the Muhammad Ali of motivational speaking. He was the sporty king of boxing. And therefore, I'm the sporty king of motivational speaking. See, greatness is about being who you are. You will always and only be successful when you choose to be yourself, whether you're a leader or in life, because I'm going to mostly talk about life, and you can transfer to leadership thoughts and ideas and principles. But we have to think about what we're doing with our life so that we can find ourselves in leadership positions, because there's nothing wrong with being a leader from behind. So we have to make sure we have that visual that a leader is not always the person in front. The leader is the person who's helping making the crucial decisions. In fact, I'm in Charlotte, I'm a native New Yorker, but I lived in Chicago for 23 years before I moved to Charlotte. And when I was ready to move to Charlotte, I sent out a note to my friend. I said, look, I'm getting ready to move down to Charlotte. Anybody got any any leads, any connections, or who somebody I can connect with when I go down there so I can look for a job. And so a friend sent me one of his frat brothers' name, who was the president, not the president, he was the CEO of the Urban League. And there's no need for me to not say it. It's okay. Well, when he sent it to me, I said to myself, well, yeah, he's the CEO of the Urban League, but you know what? I don't need to talk to the CEO. I need to talk to the director of programming. And that, and just knowing that, see, that's what I'm saying. Leading doesn't always have to be from the front. And so therefore, I went to their site and I looked up the vice president of development, and that's who I spoke with and had a meeting with her when I got here. And therefore, we talked about what was going to happen when I moved here. And then she introduced me to the CEO. The CEO's job, as much as we want to instance, oh, that's the leader. Yeah, but he or she has other responsibilities that may not have anything to do with the fact that I'm relocating to Charlotte, and whether or not they have a program that I can speak in. So recognize that leadership does not have to be from the front. And also recognize that greatness is about being who you are. You will only and always be successful, I want to repeat that, when you choose to be yourself. So thus, I now challenge and guide my audiences to enjoy finding out who's the you of what. See, who's the you of what? Once you start to recognize who you are, then you see where you shine the most. And I don't know if you're smiling at your screen right now, but ask yourself that question. Who's the me of what? Get your box of Wheaties. Because the pronoun that you'll consistently hear throughout each warning, each post on Facebook or LinkedIn or wherever, every conversation, the pronoun you hear the most is you. And the message is that when you do your job, your family and your team will be safe. Now, it won't necessarily be easy, and it may have a few more ups and downs, but you'll find out something new about yourself. In fact, one of the things that I was doing, Alina said I once, and she said everyone once. Maureen didn't use I or me. She said, I think she said the team twice. And so so focus, you got to get that word I in there. You have to say me. I know people say, well, there's no I in team. Yeah, but you know what? Life is about going from one puzzle to the next. In every puzzle, in every aspect of your social, business, and personal and family life, you're either small, medium, or large piece of the puzzle. Yet, no matter what puzzle piece size you see yourself as, without you, the puzzle is incomplete. And so you have to constantly recognize that there's no I in team, but you have to do your job so that the team can be successful. I have to empower myself to be what the team needs. So I actually can't put the team first. And that's just the psychology of it, y'all. That doesn't mean that you ignore your team. And I'm sure you know that. But remember, it's CY, it's choosing your attitude, it's having the mindset of success that I have to do my job so that we can get this done. So find out who find out who's your weakest and your strongest link by looking at your experiences, but also by finding out who's the you of what. And think about it. Who were you yesterday, and how can you use how you've grown now? And as we think about how we've gone through these last couple of years, the pandemic and the post-pandemic, we've all learned about our weakest and strongest links, and we've made adjustments. Haven't you made adjustments? And sometimes the links fooled you and the things still worked out, just like we didn't have these rooms to put us in and they still worked out. But that changed your judgment of people. When you think about how you changed things during the pandemic, it changed your judgment of people. Do you have different circumstances from where you were last year, or how you started out this new year? Are you now married? Are you now single? Do you have children? Do you have teenage children? Have you had a death in the family recently? Have you had a birth? All of these things change the way you receive the same information that you've heard over and over again. And that changes how you lead. And so it's important that we don't have a stale definition of who and what a leader is. What's important is we have a good definition of who we are. Because then as we know who we are, then we will actually find out how we get plugged in. Because won't you not want to work with a certain a person who you feel is an ineffective leader? That's not so much on them as much as it is on you. I'm not comfortable here. I'm not going to be able to flourish. I've got to go. See how the I comes in? That's why the focus, we sometimes it's a subliminal focus, but we do have to put ourselves first. And how often have we made the wrong assumption about somebody else's actions when all we can really do is make the right assessment of our own? For instance, I had given this session that I call How to Get an F in Leadership a few years ago when I was at an Air Force event, the Air Force National Guard. And I gave each table the assignment to come up with reasons why their F was important to their deployment. So each table's got the, focus, faith, fun, friends, and freedom. And I randomly had them at different tables, right? And so I gave them 10 minutes to talk among themselves and come up with why that F was important to their deployment, because they were getting ready to go overseas. And so as I'm walking around the room, I came up to a table and I looked down, and one of the airmen had written fart. Now, everybody at the table kind of froze, because it was like one of those, ooh, the teacher saw you not paying attention and you wrote fart down on your sheet. But I'm also going to bet that there was somebody wondering what I was going to do, especially now after they had heard me give this positive message about, hanging in there, choosing your attitude and stay positive. And so I'm looking at the word fart and I just smiled. I said, oh, okay, fart. Yeah, F-A-R-T, fully able to retract our thoughts. And then I rattled off something that was real smooth. Now, I don't know what I said back then, but I made it up for the presentation. So I rattled off something real smooth that said, you know what, it's so important in our lives to realize that we don't have to say everything that comes to our mind, because so many of our thoughts can be judgmental. But if we just hold on to that thought another moment or two, we often find out that the situation is not what it seems. And that sometimes we just have to fly. We have to recognize that we are fully able to retract those thoughts. And they just cracked up laughing and we moved on. And then I said, but remember, the number one communication skill is listening. It's something we learn in Toastmasters and that we have to share with the world. But leadership requires a good listener. And so I always use what I call sporty as a number 2. Listen to the paragraph, not the sentence. Allow people to finish what they're saying before you judge the content of what they're saying. But here's the blessing behind that. As it turned out, this airman had been brought back from her deployment after just 5 months in Afghanistan because her fiance stateside took his life by suicide. And the meeting planner caught up with me after and she told me that after the session. And she thanked me for engaging that airman, saying that that was the most responsive she'd been since coming back. The blessing gets better. As it turned out, the airman's last name was Farkins. And that her nickname in her unit was Fart. So she was actually totally engaged in the exercise and thinking about who she was to her family. Oh, by the way, she was at one of the tables that was a focus table. And now if I had decided as parents, friends, co-workers, teachers, leaders sometimes want to do, that this airman wasn't paying attention, I would have been wrong. And I would have taken her blessing away by not allowing her to heal at her own pace. Leaders have to know how to listen. So, how often have we made the wrong assumption about somebody else's actions when all we can really do is make the right assessment about our own? You see, right depends on whether you're on the 6 side of the 9 or the 9 side of the 6. And it's so important that we focus on you and let others come into focus. So thank you, Alina and Maureen, to get us through there. But each of you has to recognize that you take care of all your loved ones when you take care of yourself, physically, mentally, and spiritually. Speaking of spiritually, May to August. Why do we have to have faith to be leaders? Who's a May to August birthday? All right. Well, let's. Oh well, who? I didn't see whose hand went up first. So we'll. Okay, go.
Quincy,
Go,
Quincy's
Laura.
is up first. Quincy's
All
is
right,
up
Quincy.
first.
Okay, well, sure. I wrote that without faith, hopelessness enters. So I see it as a yin and a yang, right? I have faith. Without faith, there's hopelessness.
Faith is hopelessness. Okay. And when's your birthday?
Oh, August 17th.
All right. Leo in the house. So I will be celebrating you as it's 10 days away from mine because I'm August 27th. So that's when I start my 10-day countdown. But
Right.
That is it's key. Without faith, there's hopelessness. In the Bible, it says something about how important hope is. But I have hope as one of my acronyms, and it's HOPE, having overpowered evil. Recognizing that evil can't beat you one-on-one. That's why we tend to get a lot of, you know how they say death comes in threes or problems comes in threes? Yeah, because you have to get your plate overloaded to feel like you can't make it. And that's where faith gets dampened out. That's when it turns to hopelessness. And I like how you put it, hopelessness enters, because hopelessness is always there. It's always knocking at the door.
Right.
But when you have a lack of faith, you let it enter. It's just like I like using this cartoon. I call this kid Steve on this cartoon, by the way. And Steve said, might not be tonight, tomorrow, or the next day, but everything's going to be all right. And sometimes we lose. See, we taught Steve that. We teach children these sayings, and then sometimes we forget to use them, or even better, we need to remind ourselves to let the kids reteach us and to remind us. Okay. Lori, what you got?
So I agree with what Quincy said, and I'll add that faith also taps into what you believe. And so, of course, belief drives behavior. And so faith can also be a source of strength. When you're feeling overwhelmed or having things to get done, faith can be that source of strength. And then I also looked at it from a different perspective. You also need to have faith in the people you are leading. And demonstrate that so that you're not just, they say someone who's attempting to be a leader that's going by themselves is just taking a walk. You need the people that are going to be followers as you lead. So that's what I thought about for faith. And my birthday is actually 10 days before Quincy's. I'm sorry, 7 days before Quincy's on the 10th,
Okay, and that's
August 10th.
my 17-day count. And I don't even actually don't call it countdown, I call it count up. Because because I focus and concentrate on saying something positive. Now there's a comment in the chat, so Lori, check that in case we need to address it. But the main word I like that you used there was drives. You know, I think it's so important that we recognize that it's just like you said, you have to have followers. Well, who's your driver? That makes a big deal as well. You know, when because you can't follow the driver, you have to sit there and let them lead you and let them take you. So I call it choose your messengers carefully and recognize you're carefully being chosen as a messenger because you're a leader for someone else. It's a domino effect. And it takes us back to when I mentioned the puzzle, because see, maybe you're a big piece of the puzzle at home. Maybe you're the parent, you have children, you're the big piece of the puzzle at home. Then on your way to work, you're a medium piece of the puzzle because you don't have the newest car, and in fact you don't have a chauffeur, and so you're just in regular traffic. Then when you get to work, you might be an entry-level employee, you might be the lowest person, so you might be the smallest piece of the puzzle. So you're going through puzzles nonstop. And there's nothing wrong with any of those pieces of the puzzle. If you're not going to be the largest piece in all of your interactions and all of your life situations, nor are you going to be the smallest or the medium, but you're going to be an important one. And that's where that word, your source that you use, driving. What's your source of your faith? So that as you find out and figure out which puzzle piece you are and get comfortable being that piece, how is it going to impact the rest of the touch you? Because every puzzle piece gets touched. Sometimes even as think about when we put a puzzle together, we put the boundaries out first. That's going to come up later. We put the borders up first, and then we work toward the middle. That doesn't mean when we get a piece of the puzzle and it doesn't have a match, it might be the middle piece, and we say, this is no good, we throw it away. No, we have the patience to put it to the side. And that's how sometimes you may want to see your life as you are the nucleus, you are the centerpiece of your puzzle. And sometimes you just have to wait for things to come to you. You have to make sure that your source is driving so that when you tap into your belief system, as Laurie said, when you tap into it, do you believe things are coming to you? Do you believe this is a good day on this side of the ground? Quincy laughed. He said he had a friend who said any day that is a good day as long as the groundhog isn't bringing me my mail. I hadn't heard that one before.
Oh, that was Lori's.
I thought it was yours.
That was Lori's. Mine
Okay.
was close, so any
What
day
was
above
yours?
the ground's a good day.
Oh, okay. Oh, Lori, is he punking me? Didn't I thought you said
It was me. It was
my
me.
bad. My bad.
It's okay.
Let me say I knew it was a wonderful person, and that'll get me off the hook. But it might not. It might not, because hopelessness is one of Quincy's words. And so I have to hope. I have to hope that it's okay. So what I have to do is look at what I got faith as, feeling as if there's hope. See, the synchronicity, that's why I like to have people say what they're going to say about the word, because it's always good to know that somebody else is thinking along the same lines as we are. Because even when you think about it, what did Laurie say? You have to trust your team. And if you and so on your team, you can't be strong if your team is, if you don't trust your team and they don't trust you. You can't flourish. So no matter how much first you put yourself, that's why it's okay to put yourself first, so that your team can see what your strengths are. And now I say, wait a minute, I don't need to do that. 40's got that covered. So let me make sure, because I got two things I can do now. I can just focus on getting this other one stronger. But feeling as if there's hope, which also goes to what Quincy was saying, but it's to recognize that the only thing we cannot do is give up. And then this is where we get Alina's mother, her mama saying it. If you don't get it right the first time, do it the way mom told you. This is how you pronounce my name. But that's what we have to do, is recognize that's what faith is. The only thing you cannot do is give up. Stop and think back on your life. As Shirley Caesar is one of the gospel songs, as I look back over my life. Stop and look back over your life and give yourself credit. You know what? We do a lot of great things, and we tend to focus on the bad ones. In fact, you know what? You have to ask yourself, are you giving yourself credit for having made it this far? What did Laurie say? You have to add, you have to add faith. Faith adds things to your life. It doesn't take things away. It adds things to your life. And as you tap into what you believe, you get to go forward. But are you giving yourself credit? Are you stopping to smell the roses? Are you giving yourself a pat on the back? That's important because everybody's afraid of something. But just like most people consider fear, they say, well, fear is a false evidence appearing real. I got a better one, I think. And mine's is one that entrepreneurs tend to use when they talk about stepping out on faith. And that's this: faith eventually attracts resources. See, so we go back to the goals that Alina and Maureen talked about. And as an entrepreneur, I may not be very clear when I first started my speaking business. I wasn't super clear on where I was going. And so naturally, I used to work at the Wall Street Journal. And so I decided to leave the journal and start a speaking business based on the use of poetry. So imagine my friends say, oh, what, you're going to do what? You're going to leave that good job to go out and read poems? And think about, a lot of times that's what happens is someone says to us, you can't do that. That's never been done. You can't do that. And so they say, well, you know what? And then behind your back, oh, well, you know what? He'll get over that. He'll come running back. But no, once I stayed in there and figured out how to make this thing work for me, I've been in my business now 31 years. And so it hasn't been this wonderful ride of money just coming all up from every part of the room, but it's what I believe in. And eventually people start to understand what I believed in and why I believed in it. Again, because I put myself first. I ignored the naysayers. And sometimes naysayers are not your enemies, by the way. They're the closest friends you have sometimes. Why? They're afraid for you sometimes. So let's not just make it that's negative people always the ones that's going against us. It's our mothers, it's our fathers, it's our best friends, it's our sisters and brothers, it's the people closest to us who are afraid for us. And so that's why they'll try to talk us out of some stuff sometimes. That's why you got to take care of you. Put yourself first and help them understand. Because that's really all they want. I need to know why you're doing this because you know what? It affects me. Why? Because we're another piece of the puzzle. You see, it keeps coming around. So you'll see, now you may see why I said put yourself first, because I didn't say that excludes anybody. Once you put yourself first, you don't push people away. You actually draw people closer to you. Because don't we look for somebody who has it together? When we need advice, do we say, hey, you know what? I need to find somebody who got nothing going on, broke down, toe up to the flow up, and see if they can give me some good advice. No. We look for somebody who seems to have it going on. And if you are that person who has it together, now you have something to give. And you have a wholeness about yourself. That's where the faith comes in. There's a wholeness about you that as you help people, you are helping them instead of hurting them. So faith eventually attracts resources. As leaders, we have to make adjustments. We have to learn patience, and we have to trust our team. I love it that you said that, Lori. I had it written in my notes. We have to trust our team. And one thing you can do to build trust with your team, catch people doing something right. See, a lot of times we focus on catching somebody doing something wrong, and we're going to use that in the performance review. Catch people doing something right and applaud their trying to come up with solutions, and rather than the fact that they didn't, that they gave up on a situation. See, so catch them doing something right. See, even if they make a mistake, see that they made the mistake trying to get the solution versus, well, let me just give up on this. And there's a lot. This adult game, don't we tell the kids this grown-up stuff, you don't get to do this twice. The kid stuff is gone. So this grown-up thing is real. And we have to really focus on how patient we've already been and give ourselves credit for that. And I mentioned upgrading your positive vocabulary. That includes watching out for the cliches that we use, because a lot of time the cliches come into our leadership style, into our lifestyles. What I want everybody to do for this one, I want everybody to take yourself off mute, because I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to do a slide, and I want everybody to just answer. And then you won't have to raise your hand or nothing, but I want to hear everybody's answer. Let me see them unmutes. That way, plus that way we know you're here. All right, come on, y'all, unmute, and you're not gonna have to put your picture on. Thank you. Okay, great. That's enough unmutes, but let's get it off. Okay, all right, here comes the slide, and I want you to finish this sentence for me. When one door closes,
Another one
Another
opens.
One opens.
there you go. That's it. You can go back to mute. Because now what I want to show you is the Sporty King remix. And that is when one door closes, go for the windows. Go for the windows. Because see, there's usually more windows than there are doors. And what we have to do with faith is put ourselves in position to make another good decision. Ladies and gentlemen, we make a lot of good decisions, but we focus on the bad ones, because we think we have to focus on a weakness to get rid of it. But what you focus on, you ferment. And if you focus on your weakness actually gets stronger as a weakness. How about focusing on your strength when you don't have room for the weakness? And that will make you a stronger person. So when one door closes, go for the windows. I also like to look at it as sometimes it's because it's that cliche. We just learned it, right? We didn't question it. When one door closes, another will open. Well, how about that maybe makes you sound like you're in an emergency or panic situation? When one door closes, hey, the next door that opens, I'm going for it. But see, we just said, that might not be your door either. And so, God closes my doors. But who's closing your doors? Because if you know who's closing your doors, that's where your faith kicks in. And it's whether you want to use it religiously or spiritually or inspirationally, it doesn't matter. But you have to have something that you recognize that, well, that wasn't for me. A lot of times you hear people say, well, if it's for me, I'll get it. If it's not, then hey, no problem. And then as soon as they don't get it, they get all mad and start blaming somebody else. If it's not for you, it's really not. Look at Charlie Brown, the Wizard, and Snoopy. It's not about everything turning out okay. It's about being okay no matter how things turn out. So when one door closes, I want y'all to go for the window. Now, one time I said this at with different Air Force group, and I said, "Okay, finish the sentence." When one door closes, and this guy he screamed out, "It locks." It locks. And isn't that the truth? Because see, life is not dress rehearsal. This is the only time you get. So if you're not focused on who you are, if you don't have the faith to believe that you can do what you need to do to contribute positively to this world and to your life, then that door is going to lock and we'll never know. So we need you to get that focus. We need you to have that faith, because we got some windows for you to deal with. And so recognize that if you're not focused on you and your strengths, and you don't have faith in your value, you'll miss your door, you'll miss your window every single time. But you know what we have when that happens? Then we have the bird people. The bird people to tell us why it's important to feel free. So where's my bird people? Okay, Gerard, what you got?
Yeah, so fulfilling free for me is having clear thoughts. Always feel like having clear thoughts promotes execution. So not having constraints or assumptions on a particular thing. And that's what I try to strive to have.
Okay. And when's your birthday? Which bird?
I'm October the 16th.
All right. I don't have anything fancy for the 16th other than to say that on Friday the 13th, the 16th is 3 days later. So you can have Monday the 16th Why should you let Friday the 13th be a problem when you know Monday the 16th is coming? But I also like how you use the word clarity, because that's the same word that Alina used. So, and see, sometimes we have to remember too that part of leadership and part of life is knowing that someone else is thinking the same way we are, because we spend a lot of time looking for the differences when we need to look for the commonalities. And we're using that same word in two spots: focus and free both need clarity. Ooh, that rhymes. I should be a poet. And so, but and then I like how you use the word promotes. It matches Lori talking about drives. See, those are energy words. Once we have those in our vocabulary, people will follow us, and as well as people will push us. So and pushing as in holding up. Okay, I would take, and then and then that when we talked about catching people doing something right, try to strive. And see, now we get to where to I do strive. We get to where we take the try out and we recognize that we succeed. So we got Ken going, and then Jim. What you got, Ken?
Oops.
Whoops is
said-
good. Whoops is important to freedom.
I said free people will do more on their own volition. Unfree people will only do the minimum. And second, free people will give you their creativity.
Give me that again about the three people.
Okay, free people will do more on their own
Free. I
volition.
thought you said three. That was why. Okay, but go
No,
on. Give
free.
it to me again.
Free.
Okay.
Unfree people will only do the minimum. And free people will give you their creativity.
I like that. Yeah. And you know what? Even you could use three also. But I was hearing three. I'm like, okay, what's three got to do with that? Free people will give it. Okay. My handwriting sucks. Free
I'll put
people
it in
will.
chat. I'll put it in chat. You can get it at your leisure.
There you go. But yeah, you and now here's one thing, because I'm word sensitive. I like to say there's no just and only jobs. I like to take the words just and only out of my vocabulary as often as possible, because only the minimum, sometimes the minimum is all you need. So it goes back to the fart lady, okay, where we did, because we make judgment, and I'm not knocking this, by the way, at all, Ken. I'm liking how it just brings back another point. Sometimes we don't want to put an only stamp on somebody who has done all they can, because what we may see as only the minimum may have been their maximum. And sometimes we don't actually have, you know how people say, well, I give 110%. Bulletin, you only have 100. So there are times where you don't have 100% going in your energy. And so if you've only got 80, give me your full 80. That's what I'm asking for. And that's where we get to see that sometimes the minimum doesn't have to be bad. So I love it. Don't change it, Ken. But I just wanted to give us another way of looking at it, so that we don't always let that be something that becomes like an F. It's not about failure. It's about finding another way sometimes. And we also recognize that, hey, this is why people are different and different works. I think Jim has got something to say about that. What you got, Jim?
Oh, kind of like Gerard, focus. That his point was focus, and you mentioned clarity. It's the decision. You need to be free to make the decisions, or to come up with decisions that are influenced by what you see are important. Limit the biases from other folks, right? So good leaders have to look inside themselves and their knowledge, and because they have to take accountability for the decisions they make, right? So you need to be free to make those decisions, without as much influence from others.
Okay, ooh, you know how those people, when they get a volunteer on the station, we have never met, right? Okay, because I love it. I'm going to have a slide coming up that really talks about that accountability, so I'll hold that thought. But yeah, and it's so important, again, like Gerard said, like Azina said, once we recognize that there's more like than there is opposite, that's how we can go forward. That's where that influence is going. Again, it goes back to the sample I gave you about when I moved to Charlotte. And instead of worrying about connecting the CEO, I connected to the vice president of development. One time I did a post on LinkedIn that said, how'd that go? It reminded people that sometimes, and we've all seen this one or heard of it before. How about making sure you're friendly with the receptionist? How about making sure that you're friendly with the mail person? With the person who delivers the mail. The decision maker is not always who you think it is. And so, and so it is so important to watch out for who you decide is the influencer. Because a lot of times it's the same as the person who says to us, oh, I don't think you should do that because they're afraid for us. Well, sometimes the person who is the influencer may be the person who's the most scared. And you have to not use their advice. Conversely, you have to have that trust that Lori talked about to use that advice. And people, when I first moved to Chicago, by the way, I'm from New York. I had gotten a promotion and moved to Maryland as a salesperson for 4 years. Then I got a promotion and moved to Chicago as a sales manager. And so I created a theory of threes. And so when I moved to Chicago as a sales manager, I understood that my first year I would probably have little or no success because I believe that me moving from across the country to where naturally they had someone, who, hey, we got someone right here. Why are we moving this guy here from Chicago? So a lot of times, some people, when you get a promotion, they think that you may be a hatchet man, a hatchet person, or this big change is coming about. And so they're not going to give you their full participation and support. But then after a year, they could see that I wasn't there to fire everybody. And because I still had the full staff. And so now, and what my staff used to always do, because they say, well, Sporty, what are we going to do about this? And I said, well, you know what? Let's go with plan B. And if plan B didn't work, then I said, okay, let's go with plan C. So it got to where they're like, well, what plan are we up to now? I said, I think we're on L. So what you going to do when we run out of letters in the alphabet? I said, then we're going to number the letters. See, I don't have a problem going to the next plan. And they said, well, what should we do about this? I said, well, hey, let's make an executive decision. And they said, what's that? I said, I'll flip a coin. Heads, we do this. Tails, we do that. And that was and I didn't do 2 out of 3. One flip, that's it, 50-50 chance. And so they saw that was how I operated. And so naturally 2 years go by and they said, whoa, you know what? We're still here and this plan is kind of working. 3rd year, I got full support. And now that's not, to the day, but it's a cycle. It didn't have to be 3 years. It could be 3 months, but don't go into a situation thinking that everybody is so happy to see you, that you are the savior. You're not. You've got some jealous people around that don't like the fact that you're on the rise. And a leader has to be someone who is in the life understanding of, well, I'm not here to be liked by everyone, but I'm not going to be disrespected and I'm not going to be disrespectful. So that's where, it's so important to have that look on the inside and really check yourself out. How am I displaying who I am? How am I coming across? See, and now again, see how you got to put you first, because how am I coming across? Why am I getting the feedback that I'm getting? It's not them. I always say, we say, they did this. Well, who's they? THEY, the haters, especially you. Because sometimes we dislike ourselves. And so we blame somebody else for something that we aren't fulfilling in our own spirit. So yeah, leader, look inside. Look inside. And sometimes, in fact, one of the reasons I left Wall Street Journal is because once I had gotten promoted to a sales manager, after 4 years, I realized I don't really want to be a sales manager. I want to go back to sales. And I couldn't get back to sales. And so we kept trying and trying. And then, so 2 years later, then I decided I retired and decided to start my own business. Not just like that, But that was what happened. I recognized, hey, no, this is not, I'm not free to really be who I am as a sales manager. We think that we're on the corporate track, and that's what we want, but sometimes it's not, because I no longer was in charge of my time as a sales manager. I had my open door policy, but that meant that whenever anybody else had a problem, they had to come in. It didn't matter what I had going on. I had to find a way to prioritize my staff's problems and challenges. Again, not a bad thing, which is why I take only and just out of my vocabulary when I can, but it's necessary. Okay. So make sure that you look inside. So I got free. Ooh, what, my thing went away. Okay. Come back. Here we go. Okay. I got free as facts, risk, empathy, and excellence. And see, and the thing is, you have to have the facts, ladies and gentlemen. Freedom is about facts, not FAX. For those of us old enough to have known about fax machines, but but you need the facts. That's why even when asking for the birthday, Ken, I still got to get your birthday, and Jim, I got to get yours. But you need facts to make a decision. Well, what time is? Well, I think it's around 3 o'clock. No, I need to know it's 3 o'clock. We're out of here at 3. We need facts to make good decisions. And just like they say, the truth shall set you free. Well, that's a fact. So the truth has to be factual. And then risk for freedom. Risk is an acronym in itself. It's RISK. It's recognition is success is key. Once you recognize who you are, that's what frees you. No, this is who I am, because now you're going to have that faith to make a stand, because somebody's going to tell you you don't belong there. Somebody's going to tell you that, hey, we don't want your kind. Now, we've been here. This is how we've always done it. And you've got to recognize, no, this is who I am. And I'm going to take that chance. It's always worth the risk to be who you are. Always worth the risk. And that's what you want to make sure that you're doing, okay? And then you have to ask yourself, do you have the empathy to accept that we're all going through something? Everybody's going through something. But I don't know exactly what you're going through. Why? Because I've never been in your shoes. See, there's one of those cliches. Yeah, I've been in your shoes before. I don't say those things. I say, I've never been in your shoes, but I sat in your row. Because see, we're all going through something, and we've all been through something. So you just have to watch the words you use, because they have that power, and they mislead people a lot. So no, I've never been in your shoes. I have no idea what you're going through. Haven't you had somebody, by the way, who said, oh, I know what you're going through? And in your mind, you're being nice and smiling, but in your mind, say, no, you don't. No, you don't, because I'm only showing you what I'm allowed to show you to be in this space. But that's that introspection that Jim is talking about. We're all going through something. Hey, I got my aunt just died 3 days ago. And meanwhile, she was 98. And meanwhile, before she died, I was getting ready to go to Tennessee to celebrate another friend of mine's mother who was turning 93. And, and so do I stop and tell her, oh, you know what, I can't go celebrate somebody's 93rd because my aunt just died at 98. No, I had to carry that with me. And I had to celebrate. I didn't have to. I got to celebrate the 93rd year for my friend's mother. She's an other mother to me. And then in 2 weeks, I'll get to go and celebrate the life of my 98-year-old aunt. We're all going through something. So don't worry about it if other people don't know what you're going through. Oh, you have no idea. No, we don't. We don't. But we get to see your strength. And it depends on who you choose to share it with. And that can go a little bit back to what Lori was saying about trusting your team. A lot of people, I don't want to mix business with pleasure of my personal life. But I had a woman who told me she was working at a company for 15 years and she never socialized with her coworkers. I didn't say nothing because I don't think that's a good move. Because she was talking about well, yeah, so and so, they want to take me out to celebrate my birthday, but I don't like to, put my personal time with my business associate. I said, oh, how long have you been working there? She said 15 years. In my face, she couldn't see my face. Because in my mind, if you've been working there 15 years and somebody wants to celebrate your birthday, number one, maybe they don't know that but how could you go 15 years working with somebody and have no relationship? There's no such thing as my life is totally separate. One of the things that I used to do with my salespeople is every Christmas, I would tell them, you know how, well, the pandemic has changed a lot of stuff, but history wise, y'all, when we used to go into the office around Christmas, a lot of people would use the office and they go Christmas shopping, and and they have a little bit of Christmas stuff, and then they go home on the public transportation or whatever, and all loaded down. They do it in shifts. Well, I created what I call Queen for a Day. I had a staff of 9 in Chicago, and 7 of my staff members were women and 2 were guys. So I had Queen for a Day and King for a Day, where they signed up to use the day to come into work and just use it to go shopping, and use the office as their pit stop to go shop one place, put their stuff down and go shop another place, and then get their stuff and go home. And and everybody just signed up and had their day. Excuse me. And before anybody thinks that was misusing company time, it was not. Number one, it was a slow time of the year. Number two, think about the morale, about how many other people are happy to do their work for them, and look at some of the gifts that they got. Oh, vodka. Vodka's better than gin when you're speaking. Okay, so but that built some of that camaraderie in there. And then, like I said, I had the Queen for the Day and the King for it. And I was in charge of 4 outside offices as well: Detroit, Cleveland, Minneapolis, and St. Louis. And 2 people in each of those offices. So they switched off. You have to do things, you have to have empathy to feel that people are what? People. And they got something going on. You don't have to know everything that's going on in their lives, but they got something going on. So what can you do by being you to make it better for someone else? And that's why I think that one of the things that you can do is, if we look at everybody who has mentioned goals, I want your goal, ladies and gentlemen, to be excellence, not perfection. Excellence is attainable and it's repeatable. Perfection is not. Take that weight off your shoulders of having to be perfect. You do not have to be perfect, and you will not make it. As well as, think about another one of those cliches. We always say, hey, well, practice makes perfect. And then almost the next sentence is automatically, but nobody's perfect. It's already built in. So sometimes I say, I believe that perfection is the goal of perfection is to fail and then get justification from somebody else. Because we say, hey, I practice, and I didn't make it, but I made it here. Well, why don't you just make here the goal so that you can get a win, and then celebrate, and then make this the next goal. Hey, shoot for the moon, you get the stars. Well, how about just shoot for the stars? The cliche, be careful of the cliches, y'all, because the cliches will hold you back because they're not yours. There's something that you've adopted from somebody else saying it, and it sounds good. And they are. And they're helpful sometimes, but they're not always helpful. Every now and then you got to get literal and really figure out, well, what works for me? That becomes the key. So excellence is attainable, it's repeatable, and it's empowering. So you have to build yourself, and this is what I was saying to you, Jim, about accountability. You have to build yourself up by following guidelines, not boundaries. See, boundaries say stop, guidelines say caution and think. And so once we have the right guidelines going on in our lives, we can now make the steps forward. Everybody will experience life at a different pace. And each of us starts a new day with a blank screen. And even when I say that, I crack up laughing because I get my own flashback. I was doing a presentation once and I clicked the clicker and it forwarded to a blank screen and I didn't know it because it was behind me. And then I turned and I saw it was a blank, and I had been talking. I turned, I saw it was a blank screen, and I just I said, and you know what? We all start out with a blank screen. And I made it work. Because that's the truth. We all start out with this blank screen every morning. What are you putting on your screen? What colors are you using? Remember when we were kids and we had the crayons? You know, what colors are you using? Okay. What are your guidelines? What are your boundaries? Because each day you get to start out having a conversation with yourself. And that conversation could be, I've got a good support network. I've got the courage to ask for help. I know there is someone that I can trust. See, can you have those positive conversations with yourself in the morning? And before I move on, Ken, when's your birthday? When's your birthday?
November.
November. Are you part of the Thanksgiving group?
No, I'm before that.
How much before?
The 9th.
All right, good. I don't have. Oh, well, okay, well we can vote on you in November, huh? And Jim, what about you, Jim?
Shorty, it all comes back to you. When did you say your birthday is?
August 27th.
Yeah, I'm 6 days from you, September 2nd. It all comes back to you, man.
Virgo. And can you, Jim? Can you imagine what this poor world will be like without Virgos? Neither can I. And so, and then again, like I tell you, I'm on this side of 100 because I'm 70 years old, and so that used to be one of what's your zodiac sign? That used to be a pickup line. That was conversation. So there's so many. Again, those are another sources. Who mentioned sources? That was Lori talked about sources. There's so many sources of information that we get that we can use. And all of it is part of leadership because it's all part of life. And so that if we think about those things, we say, because we'll still talk about birth signs, but we don't talk about them the way we used to talk about them. I knew people who, once they found out somebody's birth sign, they were, oh no, our stars don't align together, and they wouldn't even try. Oh, nope, I'm a Virgo, you're a Cancer. Well, we don't get, well, actually Cancers and Virgos go together, but you're a Capricorn. Oh, we don't get together. So, and then they end it. So, you got to be careful about that. But in fact, I once heard, though, getting back on track, I learned from an Air Force chaplain that the real moral of the story behind the Three Little Pigs, and we talk about boundaries and guidelines, the real moral behind the story of the Three Little Pigs we think it's about what type of house they built, but it's not. It's not about what type of house you build. It's about the fact that the storm is coming. That's the moral of the Three Little Pigs. The storm is coming. And what I added is that after that storm, there's going to be another storm. We are so good at going through storms. Takes us back to that faith thing. Freedom is about faith. And so we have to recognize that we have to keep being prepared for the next storm. And I don't use, TGIF. You know how people say TGIF, thank God it's Friday. No, I say, what a Lord does Friday have to the person who took their last breath on Thursday? Beware of the cliches. So instead I use TGIT as that is, thank God it's today. And then TGIT, thank God it's tonight. Because the chance to wake up, go to sleep, go through a whole day and do it again, that's what we got to be thankful for. And that's why we got to see that we are all storm survivors. Y'all have been through some stuff in your life, so recognize that you have survived a lot of storms. And that's why sometimes you have to stand up to somebody who seems like they want to knock you off your square. Well, they don't know who they're dealing with. So you have to forgive them. And then just find a way to move on. A leader knows and believes that there's another victory ahead and there's another option. Sustained success is based on facts. That's what freedom is all about. And you must know your next steps, sometimes based on your past experience. But let every conversation add up to a blessing because you deserve it. You have to recognize that you deserve to be blessed. So I give you thanks as I give you all an F, because actually each one of you deserve an A. You've focused on your attitude, you've had faith in your adjustments, and you've allowed yourself to feel free. Another way to put it, and one way you may be more familiar with, lead with clarity, strengthen your connections, and remain focused on your success. Thank you for your time and your attention. And now we are open for any questions. My contact information will be in the chat.
Well, thank you so much, Sporty. This has been super engaging and entertaining, to say the least. So we do want to open it up. We've got about 10
Thank you,
minutes
JR.
for any questions. If anybody has any questions or even comments that you would like to share before we wrap up. Looks like a lot of kudos in the chat for you, Sporty.
Oh, I can go to chat. Hey, thank you, Selena.
All right,
You wanna
Gerard, I
say
see
hello?
your hand. Go ahead, Gerard.
First and foremost, thank you, Sporty, for providing this. I got great insight out of this. I call it jewels, and I took down a lot of great notes. But I just have a question. I've been running into, as far as leadership, I'm getting a lot of coworkers and other peers that have this mantra of, I'm just here to do my job and go home. And trying to provide a different outlook or a paradigm shift to change that mindset, because it can change morale, it can change the direction of certain projects. I just wanted to get maybe your insight of what maybe something I can turn around with maybe these 5 F's, or something I can provide to that person to maybe not look at things in a different way due to an experience. Because you're right, I haven't been in their shoes, and yes, it may have not been a great experience, but the attitude that you bring towards the team, I've noticed that it caught wildfire. And yes, I understand. Yes, you're here to do a job and go home. However, there are other aspects of the job where we need to have camaraderie, collaboration, and if you're not 100% dedicated to that, it may spread to others. It can be lack of focus. It can cause you not to be free. Uh, uh, and I just want to kind of get your perspective behind that, to get a little bit more insight.
Two things. One, Lori, would you drop my contact information in the chat? Because the one thing is for sure, that answer is one that happens over time. Like I don't have this is the answer. And just same way with that person. That day that they say, well, hey, I'm just here to do a job. Well, what do you mean by that? What does doing a job look like to you? Is the person, because what you might want to do is the person doing a good job? And see, and maybe it's just like I used to, when I started my speaking business, oh, you need to speak in schools. I said, yeah, but you know what? And I didn't mind that, but even on this, I'm in your life for an hour. And then you've got another 23 with your support system. And so that person who comes in and say, hey, I'm just here to do my job and get out of here, you blow them up with wonder, happiness and joy and camaraderie and all that stuff. But then they're going home to a negative support system that just washes out everything that you did. And so guess what happens? It's easier. It's just like when we talk about a comfort zone. It's easier to be in the negative zone than it is in the positive. If they haven't gotten fired based on what they were doing, obviously, well, if they're just coming and doing it and doing a job and they're doing it, sometimes you just have to, that's all you can get. Now, but it definitely, I agree that it can and will spread to others. But now, guess what? That's where it goes back to focus. Each of those people have to have decided that they're not going to let that impact them.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, I had a guy when I first became a sales manager who my job was to fire him. They didn't tell me that, but I knew it. You know, he had actually been fired by the company, but then he filed a claim through the union and he won. And he got reinstated. So he beat the company in a lawsuit. So therefore, you know, and got reinstated on me. So I knew that there was this subliminal message that because what happened is they didn't fire him properly. And so I knew that subliminally I had to fire him properly because he wasn't qualified. But you know, I gave him the full benefit of the doubt, and you know, hung him with it and tried to make him better. And you know, when I got sick of him, is we had to do verbal warning, follow up in writing. Second warning, follow up in writing. Third warning, termination. I got mad at him on the second one because I'm like, how do you let the process happen? Once you got the verbal warning and then in writing, when you get the second one, then does the buzzer go off for you? You know?
Sure indeed.
See, so you know, people have to, you know, you can't baby people. This, you know, we talked about it earlier. This is grown-up stuff. And if someone doesn't want to be at that job, they are going to be pulling the morale down. And I believe as a leader, it becomes important that you have to decide, well, maybe I have to get rid of this person if I can't help them. But at the same time, remember, I don't know their situation. And I just really don't know why they're that negative. But if I could just, you know, keep, you know, maybe watch them and keep giving them some love, you know, maybe coming to work is their only break.
Right, absolutely. Thank you. That provides great insight. I definitely we're going to try some things to maneuver in that. I appreciate that, Sport. I'm also going to reach out as well.
Okay, and that's why I say, yeah, because see, some of my podcasts and things, you know, I'm always talking about positive, and then maybe something they'll see or you'll see, maybe that'll be the thing that hits for them.
Like for just a small thing, like AI. AI has been a big thing, and I know some people are they're a little reluctant to it than as usual, and they may not pick up on different tools. Because I'm in tech, I'm in quality and tech. And sometimes it's since we're the last line of defense before things get approved, you know, I would like attitudes not as of I'm just here to do my job and go home, more of, you know, hey, I've seen this, I've got this, and things of that nature. But I appreciate that. I don't want to take up everybody's time, but I'll reach out to you, Sporty.
Well, two things. Robert's got a great comment in the chat. But before I read that, I take it back to what Alina said. A clarity in vision. See, sometimes the leadership's vision isn't clear. And so that's why I'm looking at what Robert wrote. And it could be that management's actions and behavior eroded the environment to the minimum that employee could tolerate. See, so maybe the vision wasn't clear to this employee, and he or she is acting upon now, what did somebody else say, that the minimum, the only minimum. They're doing the bare minimum because according to what they're seeing from leadership, they don't really matter. And so why, you know, and again, maybe they're misreading management's signals, but you know, it's a long process. And we talked about patience, you know, and trust. You know, all of these things come into being, into play. So definitely looking at chat too. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you for that, Robert, too. That's it.
All right. Thank y'all so much. So we've got like 2 minutes left. Just want to do a quick reminder. I did drop into the chat the link to our evaluation for this session, or you can use the QR code that's on the PowerPoint. And I did put in Sporty's email address and link to his LinkedIn. So feel free to grab that. And as I mentioned at the top, this is a recorded session, so we will provide the link to the recording afterwards, and that way you can watch it again and make sure you got all those notes correct in your notes. So just want to say thank you again to Sporty for coming and blessing us today with so many nuggets and things to take away and implement. And I also want to let folks know, just be on the lookout for more sessions coming this year. We will be communicating more about that. So if no one has anything else, Quincy, did I cover everything? Anything you want to share before we wrap up?
You can plug, we have a annual meeting this week, right?
Yes, PMI meeting is tomorrow. And Mike, anything you would like to share? Our Director of Communities Practices on, Mike Rock?
No, it was a very good presentation. Very, very good, Sporty.
Thank you.
Thanks, Boyd.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. We're at 7:30, so we appreciate you joining, and we look forward to seeing you in our next session. Stay tuned.
All right, thanks.
Oh, man, I did good on Teams. Thanks, Lori. Oh, I
was
missed
good.
that background.